Welcome to Real Talk, where we dive into the raw, engaging, authentic, and lived experiences that inspire and inform. I'm Michelle Badusky, your host, and I believe that the hardest conversations to have are the ones we need the most. This is a safe space for real talk that challenges perspectives, sparks growth, and pushes boundaries. No filters, no fluff, just real talk. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hey everyone, this is Michelle Badusky with Real Talk, and on today's episode we are talking about navigating the Canadian-US trade war with grace and practicality. Now, this is a really complex issue, and it gets confusing because ever since Donald Trump was inaugurated as President of the United States, he's been back and forth on tariffs and trade negotiations. He's been using the fact that he feels like fentanyl coming across the Canadian border into the U.S. is a way for him to, completely undo the trade agreements that he's made with our country as well as Mexico. He's using that as an excuse. We know it's an excuse because less than 1% of the fentanyl that comes into the U.S. comes from Canada. And actually, there's more things, illegal things like guns and drugs that come through the United States into Canada. But regardless, it is what it is. Donald Trump has declared economic war on Canada. And most of us, at least I, believe it's a way of him to exert his power, be a bully, and try to undermine the Canadian economy in order to annex us as the 51st state. He's made a lot of jokes about that, but many people don't believe he's joking, and I am one of those people that don't believe he's joking. Now, the reason this matters to all of us as Canadians, is, well, for quite a few reasons. One, it's the most important topic that is playing out in our federal election right now, right? We are in a federal election. We're less than a month away from choosing a new government. We are going to be electing our local MPs, and whichever party gets the most MPs elected forms government, and their leader becomes prime minister. That's what we are facing here in Canada. And this trade war with the United States plays a huge role in that. Who do we think is going to be the best person to work with Donald Trump, stand up against him? That's the political end of this trade war. But what I want to talk about today is the personal end, the family matters of what we can do as individual people, as Canadians, as parents, and as consumers to help support Canada and help grow our economy and reduce our dependence on the U.S. Because we have been hugely dependent on the U.S. my entire life. The reason being is we have 1/10 their population. There's, let's say 40 million 40 million Canadians. There's almost 400 million Americans. They have, a huge economy. They have lots of products, manufacturing. We have lots of resources. They have a lot of manufacturing, and they produce a lot of the things that we've come to not necessarily depend on, but just become a habit in our life, because we've had this free trade agreement for so many years, and we move across the border, and we don't really think twice about it. But now, not only will tariffs make things more expensive, but we really need to be investing in our local businesses, our local industries, and our local economies. And if you are Canadian, you've been hearing all about this. Everywhere you go, we've been talking about it. I've been talking about it. And I think it's really important, and I think we all have a role to play in this economic war. And more than ever, it's a great time for us to be supporting local. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been working as a mentor with entrepreneurs here in Canada and in Manitoba for years. Rural economic development and small business management has been my passion and has been one of the topics that I've spoken a great deal about. I really believe that our small businesses are the backbone of our economy, especially here in rural areas like rural Manitoba. I believe in buying local. I believe in supporting local. But I'm not a perfect human being. And just like the rest of you, I have spent most of my life not really worrying about whether or not the products or the components in my products were American or Canadian. We've come to rely on things like Amazon for rural areas where we can't get things locally. We've we listen to audiobooks on Audible. We Google. We watch Netflix. We watch Disney. We go to Disney. We have been so ingrained into American culture that most of us know more about the American politics and American policies than we do our own Canadian government. And I find that disturbing, but it's true. And it's just a byproduct of how we were raised and the way our economies have been interlinked, and how this strong allyship and relationship we've had with the US has just been prevalent in most of our lives. But now with Donald Trump, that has changed. And along with it, we need to change too. And that includes our buying habits. That includes being more mindful and being more aware of what we are, purchasing, bringing into our home, and what companies we are supporting. I believe this. I also believe that we're not perfect and that change doesn't happen overnight. And the importance of this conversation came to me just on my social media the other day. And I'm going to give you a prime example of where I think we need to include grace and understanding in dealing with each other as we are all learning to navigate this new reality. On my social media, on my Facebook account, I posted a picture of a sweet treat I made for my kids just the other day. For those of you who are watching, you'll notice that I'm not in my studio. I am actually reclining in bed as I'm recovering from surgery and battling, a long-term illness here. And it's really important for me to have really good quality of life and enjoy every moment, but I also need to be really focused on my health. So I posted a picture of some peanut butter, salted caramel, frozen yogurt that I made the other day for me and my kids. High protein, delicious, it feels naughty, it's decadent, and yet it's healthy. But when I posted this picture, I mentioned that I used my frozen, my ice cream maker to make this, and the brand that I mentioned happens to be a US brand. Now, I didn't have to mention it, but I knew that my followers, when I shared what I had made and told them how I made it, would ask me, how'd you make it, right? Because frozen yogurt isn't something you normally just whip up with a fork. So instead of leaving it hanging and then having to answer afterwards, I put it in there that I use this appliance. I know it's an American brand, but I happen to have it. I've had it for years. So while I understand it's an American brand, it's still in my kitchen, and I used it to make this wonderful treat, and here's how I made it. So in the back of my mind, I kind of knew that maybe what I was doing was not the best thing to do by mentioning this brand, but I was trying to, find that medium between continuing our life and our family, and to realize that many of us have appliances, vehicles, subscriptions, things that we use or rely on every single day that are American that we aren't going to throw out. We're going to continue to use them. And I don't think we should be ashamed of doing that, to not using my platform to promote something that's American. And there is a responsibility that I have as, a semi-public figure. When thousands of people are reading my posts, I have that responsibility to not be promoting US products. And I got called out on it. I had a follower who immediately jumped on my post and called me out on promoting a US product. Now, in a way, he was right. I understand it, and I look back on it, and I'm going, damn, you know what? I shouldn't have done that, and I probably won't do it in the future. It was a good perspective, because we do have a responsibility to really be focused on promoting Canadian brands. Now, I get it. I'm not going to throw out this machine. I'm going to continue to use it. But there's a difference between doing that and putting it on my social media that I'm using it. And I understand his point there. But the problem I had with his response is that he was very aggressive and went to an extreme of accusing me of being, basically being, almost a traitor to our country, that I'm promoting those who are trying to destroy us, that I am unpatriotic. And I took a little bit of an offense to that. Not so much that I have thin skin and I was hurt, but I realized that we are in an economic war with Americans, that it's Donald Trump's administration that is doing this to us. And more than ever, we need to come together as Canadians and come together as families and neighbors to support one another, to learn how to navigate these new waters. Because none of us have ever faced this type of animosity with our closest ally or former closest ally, the United States. We need to have some grace and we need to have some compassion for our friends and neighbors. So while I understood what he was saying, and I do apologize for posting that because I probably shouldn't have. It was not, the fact that I had to qualify what I said shows that I probably knew better. So, I will be more careful in the future. But what bothered me about it was how aggressive he was, because for anyone who's not got the thick skin of social media and politics that I have grown over the years, it could be really, really hurtful and really, really damaging, because I think we're all doing the best that we can. I think we all know that we need to look at labels. I think we all know that, buying Canadian instead of US made is where we should be going. And when my ice cream maker, breaks down, I'm not going to be buying a US brand. I'm going to find a Canadian alternative. And if I can't find a Canadian one, I'll find one made in the UK. I know I'm going to do that. But I'm also not going to be throwing out the stuff that's in my kitchen or in my garage or, things that I've already paid for just to spite the US. That it's ridiculous, it's unrealistic, and the vast majority of Canadians can't afford to do that. And the fact that, we need to somehow feel ashamed for it or hide it because of reactions like this gentleman on my social media, who, by the way, I invited to join me online or on camera for this conversation so he could share his point of view. He declined. But the fact that he was so aggressive about it makes me feel like I almost had something like he was expecting me to be ashamed or that I should hide the fact that I have something American in my home. And I'll be honest, we all do. We all do. Will that be the same in 10 years? Probably not. But because of that close relationship we've had for so long with the US, we have integrated our economies like that. And while that's changing, it's not going to change overnight. And I don't think we should be ashamed or make others feel ashamed or like bad Canadians because of it. And this leads me to some of the demonstrations we've seen in the last couple weeks, both in Canada and the US, against Elon Musk, specifically Tesla. Now, many of you know I drive a Tesla. I bought this car, my husband and I bought this car, I should say, in 2022. It was brand new. It was our dream car. And I gotta admit, I love this car. I absolutely love my car. I was so proud of it. And suddenly, because Elon Musk has gone so to the right wing, and I've been very open about how I feel about what Elon Musk and his Doge crew and Donald Trump are doing in the United States. I've said this before, that when you have enough money that you can alleviate the pain and suffering of millions and millions of people, and you choose not to, and you choose instead to use that money to buy power and influence in order to actually victimize vulnerable people, that's evil. There's no other word for it. I don't condone, I don't support, I don't even appreciate anything that Elon Musk is doing right now. I believe, he is in bed with right-wing extremists. I believe that in my heart from everything I've seen and read. And I don't support anything about this man or what he's doing. And I don't support the Trump administration. But I do drive a Tesla. I can't sell my Tesla because now stocks have gone down. The value of it, I probably couldn't even get what I owe on this car. And yet I drive a Tesla. So these protesters that are protesting Elon Musk, I get it. I am all for peaceful, nonviolent demonstrations. Absolutely. Use your voice, get out there and do what you need to do. But when it comes to damaging property and attacking individual owners who happen to buy these products, especially since most of them were bought before the Nazi salute and the Trump administration, before, would I buy a Tesla today? Not a chance in hell. No. But I've had one for almost 3 years. Does that make me a Musk supporter? Does it make me a bad Canadian? Does it make me evil? I sure hope people don't think that. And I sure hope that they're not going to destroy my property because they think I am. Because that's not helping. It's turning on each other while we're trying to fight fascism and this wannabe dictator in the US. Turning on each other is not helping each other. Boycotting, like when you boycott Tesla, Twitter, or X, SpaceX, all of these brands, all of these companies, when you want to boycott American products, that's a choice, and I think it's a choice we should all make moving forward. But vandalizing cars, attacking individuals who happen to own these products, jumping on social media to criticize someone who happens to mention a brand of frozen yogurt maker, that's not forwarding any positive agenda. What it's doing is creating division amongst us who should be coming together to fight them. We should be working together. We should be saying, that might be the brand you're using now, but here's an alternative Canadian brand. So when you're ready to change or upgrade, or if you can afford to get rid of this one, maybe this is something you can, expect. I don't mind being called out when I make a mistake, but when we are attacking each other for things like this, it hurts us as a collective. It does nothing to build Canada up. It does nothing to help each other or support what we're going through. Making these transitions are hard, and there's a lot of circumstances where people can't change what they're doing. I'll give you an example. I know a friend who had a vacation to Disney World booked for this spring break. Them and their kids are little, been looking forward to it for a year. They've saved up, they've scraped, they've planned, they've built up so much excitement. And then a couple months ago, this trade war hit and boycotts were called. Should they lose their entire prepaid vacation investment that they've worked so hard for? Should they disappoint their children who don't understand what any of this is in order to prove a point to Donald Trump? I don't think they should. I think that in this case, it's understandable. You can't make such huge personal sacrifices. Would I book a brand new one now? No. Did I have a trip to the United States planned before my surgery? Yes. Did I cancel it? Yes. I had the luxury and the privilege of being able to do that. Not everyone can. I know women who are formula feeding babies with brands that are made in the US, and for anyone who's had a baby, you can't just switch brands. Some of these are specialty items that you can't get here, at least not yet. Are they expected to do these things? Should we be selling our furniture and appliances that we already paid for? If I have a Amazon subscription, should I stop watching Prime, even though it's already paid for until next January? These are decisions we need to make as individuals, and they're going to be based on our beliefs. They're going to be based on our income, our privilege, and our priorities. Condemning one another and just jumping on people for the decisions they make without taking the time to understand why they're making the decisions and choices they are, and without, compassion and grace and empathy, doesn't forward us as a unified country or a community. I think we really need to focus on the systems and the corporations. We need to work on understanding and educating and informing, not attacking each other as an individual. It's kind of like, if you really think that a single mom in the US who's feeding her children on food stamps is the cause of an economic collapse in America, and not, 8 men that hold more wealth than the rest of the entire country, if you think that single mom is your problem, you still got a lot to learn. And the fact that, a mom is making frozen yogurt with an American appliance. Again, I was wrong. I shouldn't have promoted it on my social media. But the fact that I did is still not our major focus here. Condemning one another, attacking one another is not going to make it better. Can we politely suggest? Can we, inquire? Can we, if I would have got an email or a message and he said, I don't really think you should be doing that because it seems to me like you're promoting this brand, I would have went, you know what? It did come across like that. I can see where that would be taken. Maybe I'll change it. Maybe I'll take it down. But that's not what happened. It was attack, insult, attack. And that forwards nothing. It helps nothing. And as we navigate these new times, I want you to think about that when you're talking about buying local, shopping Canadian, supporting Canadian economy. I want you to think about, that coffee shop that is in your town that might be, a U.S. brand, but it's locally owned and employs local workers. It's not as simple as just boycotting everything American. There's a lot more here at stake, and I think we need to have the conversation, and think we need to listen to each other and treat each other with a little bit more compassion and grace, especially when we're dealing with each other online. So I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this matter. Check out the comments below. Reach out to me on social media. Jump in, share your thoughts, because that's what this is all about. Real talk, real lived experiences, real perspectives. And I can't wait to hear yours. That's it for this episode of Real Talk, where we tackled the hardest conversations because they're the ones we need the most. I can't wait to hear your thoughts and opinions. Let's keep the conversation going. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay real, stay engaged, and keep living your authentic truth.